Okay, welcome to everybody. Glad you could come to this meeting, the public meeting. Sorry, we're running a little bit late, but we're ready to go now. This meeting of the Pennsylvania Opioid Misuse and Addiction Abatement Trust has been duly advertised as a public meeting in accordance with the Sunshine Act and is therefore open to members of the public as observers. Participation in this meeting is limited to trustees, and those trustees have invited to in advance to take part. This meeting is being recorded, and minutes from the meeting will be available on the trust website after they are approved by the Board of Trustees. I would say, as I noted, that we had an executive session immediately prior to this public meeting for the purpose of receiving litigation updates, legal and tax advice, and that is the that ran a little bit long, which is the reason we're running a little bit behind time. With that, I'd like to, before we even begin with the approval of the minutes, I would like to announce that we do have 3 new trustees since the time of our last public meeting in November of 2024. And I will introduce those members. We've also had, in addition to the 3 new members, we have had 4 people who have left the trust, 3 of whom are being replaced by the people I'm going to be introducing. And one, Gene Girolamo, as from Bucks County, has indicated to us that he is unable due to the trust of other business to continue, and he has submitted his resignation. His name has been removed from the trust website. And we are awaiting the counties that he was representing to meet and recommend a replacement. So as of now, we will only have 12 members of the trust for the immediate future. First new person is Jamie Flick. He almost doesn't feel new because he was named in early January to replace Jim Struzzi. Jim has gone on to other responsibilities within the Republican caucus, and he did not feel the leadership wanted to replace him, and Jamie is the person that was selected. Jamie represents the 83rd legislative district, which includes parts of Lycoming County and 2 northern townships of Union County. I will not go over his full background, but I do note that he is a part owner of the Sydney Blue Sox, a professional baseball team in Sydney, Australia. And I mention that because it continues in a long line of people that have been affiliated with baseball teams. Jim Gregory, who was one of the predecessors to Jamie, was the announcer for the Altoona Curve. So we do want to keep this baseball connection in. Welcome, very good. Thank you. Secondly is Danielle Friel-Otten. Danielle was appointed by the Democratic caucus to replace Mark Rossi. We complimented Mark on his almost 3 years of service to the committee. He did not run for office, and the Democratic caucus felt that they did want to replace him and has named Danielle. Danielle too has hit the ground running. She has attended several work group meetings. Was not able to attend the informational meeting we had in January. We're anxious for Danielle to get up to speed, and we welcome her as a member. The 3rd new member was just appointed yesterday by the Allegheny County Executive. Aaron Dalton has served as the Allegheny County representative since being named by Executive Fitzgerald in 2022, and she just felt with the precedent of other business, she has remained with the county, will continue, but she is very, very active, as anybody from the western part of the state knows, in many county affairs, and the county executive has opted to name Stuart Fisk to replace her. Stuart is no stranger to members of the committee. She has participated side by side with Aaron as members of the technical advisory group. and also in various work groups. And he, in fact, will be making the presentation on behalf of one of the work groups today. So we welcome Stuart. Thank you for joining us. With that, I'd like to move on to the approval of the minutes of the November 21st, 2024 public meeting. They were in your packet. Could I have a motion to approve those minutes, please?
So
This is two.
Okay,
second.
second.
Second, Tumar Alexander.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, we passed. And I did neglect to have the roll taken, Bree, so if you could read off the roll so I make sure we have a quorum for the meeting.
Sure. Tamar Alexander,
Good afternoon, everyone present.
Commissioner Kevin Boozle,
Present.
Secretary Latika Davis Jones,
Present.
Stuart Fisk,
Present.
Representative Jamie Flick,
Here.
Representative Danielle Frielon,
Present.
Steve Jasper, Shay Madden,
Present.
Commissioner Robert Postal,
Here.
Senator Greg Rothman,
Senator Rothman's unable to attend. Morgan Wagner is here on his behalf.
Thank you.
Senator Christine Tartaglione,
Same thing here. Senator's not able to attend. I'm sitting in for her. Thank you.
Chair Tom Baker.
Here. And I would note that the people that do have representatives, absolutely welcome. And they have participated in numerous other meetings of the trust. They will not be able to vote, so it is only the trustees who have the ability to vote. And I do note that quorum is present of the voting trustees. Okay, I'm going to make a little bit of a switch in the agenda. We're due on the agenda to hear from the Office of the Attorney General regarding the Purdue Sackler settlement. Neil is not going to be on the phone for about another 5 to 10 minutes, so we're going to move forward first with a presentation by Penn State regarding the March 2025 reporting. So Dennis?
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Tom. This is Dennis Scanlon from Penn State University, and work, with the trust along with colleagues from the University of Pittsburgh and Temple University to develop and collect the data from the reporting tool that the trust uses for its review of in conjunction with a settlement. So pleased to announce that the third round for counties of the reporting tool links went out to counties on Monday, and they have until the 17th of March to complete their third round of reports. This will be for a period covering July 1st, 2024 to December 31st, 2024. Also want to note that for the first time, litigating subdivisions as defined as part of the settlement are now required to report, and their reporting period will cover a different time period. That will be August 1st of 2022 to December 31st of 2024. As we always do, we take a look at the reporting tool and how it functioned, any feedback we receive. The last reporting period was the second for the county, so the second time around. And I'm pleased to say that, generally speaking, this has worked well, no significant feedback. But we always have a few tweaks and changes that are recommended. And so we did make a couple of changes, just minor wording changes, a little bit of change related to the functionality of the online tool itself. And other than that, though, the tool is pretty much as is. I will say that as we always do, and with the litigating subdivisions coming on board, we have a number of different training or educational sessions on how to use the tool. There may be turnover with within counties for those who complete the tool. So We have a detailed written instruction document. We have pre-recorded demonstration videos, and I've done 2 of those, one for the counties and one for litigating subdivisions, since this will be their first time reporting. So those will be links available to go through kind of an online tutorial. And then also have a live webinar, which will be offered on February 21st for anyone that has received the link. And so these are all opportunities to just make sure that there are no questions, or if there are questions, we can answer that regarding how to report on the tool. In addition, if there's just any need for technical assistance or questions, we're happy to entertain that as well through a request through email that goes through CCAP in the email address associated with the reporting. I guess the only other thing that I would say is once the data is collected, we will prepare information for the trustees for their review, as they usually do. And actually, I do want to circle back in terms of changes. What I failed to mention that we have added 2 additional questions this period, demographic type questions, which will serve, we think, 2 primary purposes. One is we are working to finish and build a reporting website, which will allow more transparent information and a searchable information for the public, a variety of constituents. And also many counties have asked for the ability to be able to understand information that in terms of how other counties are spending their remediation or their dollars on remediation programs. The ability to network, to understand programming, who folks might have contracted with, how they develop service expectations, things of that nature. And so the 2 questions really focus on population served by each of the remediation programs, with specific checkboxes that the respondents are allowed to check. And then the other question, really a abbreviated taxonomy that simplifies, if you will, Exhibit E for purposes of the user. It is important to note that the trust itself will still be collecting the information on Exhibit E with its Schedule A and Schedule B checkboxes. That's a requirement, as I understand it, to the settlement. And so even though we're asking these 2 new questions, they serve a different purpose, which is really the ability to search and sort for information and to report publicly. The existing tool and the way Exhibit E requires that information to be reported will not change. And that's the information, as I understand it, that the trustees will use in their deliberations. So with that, Tom, I think that covers most of my update. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Dennis. And I would also add and reiterate that the added questions are not going to be used by the trust in determining whether or not there is compliance with Exhibit E. All the other questions that you've previously gone over and been used to are the ones that we're going to use for that. The primary purpose of these 2 additional questions is to add just additional information so we can see how the money is being spent, determine some of the demographics, and get it to the point where so it can be utilized on our website, and it will promote transparency by doing so. So Penn State, Temple, and Pitt are also working on our website, and these were additional questions that they thought. It's a fine line that we're balancing. We don't want to add so many questions that we put a burden on the counties. At the same time, we want to get as much information as we can so that counties can report, the public can see what the money is being spent on, and each county can learn from the others as to what has been effective and hasn't been effective. So that's the fine line we walk when we talk about adding questions. This will be the 3rd reporting period that we've had since the inception of the trust, because counties did have 18 months to spend the money, and we started going out in August of 2022, as you all recall. And with each reporting period, Penn State, Temple, and Pitt have made themselves available to answer any questions, to deal with the counties directly, try to help them as much as they can in complying with the reports. And also there have been modifications. We learn as we go along, and there will probably constantly be revisions to the reporting tool so that we can make sure that we make it as easy as possible, but that we still obtain all the information we need to judge compliance. So with that, are there any other questions for Dennis regarding the reporting tool? Okay, hearing none. I would like to note, by the way, looking up at the screen, I wanted to see if Neil has joined us, and he has. So that we can move on to Neil's report. I did want to mention that Diane Rossetti, who is who works very, very closely with Bucks County and with Gene, who in fact has been attending many of the meetings of the work group and this group. Along with Gene, so I don't want you to think that Gene's counties are not without representation or the ability to report back on what has taken place. I apologize for not seeing that, Diane. Neil, if we can move on to you and get an exciting update from you as regarding an additional settlement, which is a settlement of matters that we've discussed here at the trust for the last at least year and a half, when everybody was so concerned about the Supreme Court's ruling in the Sackler bankruptcy. So I'm happy to turn the floor over to you to give us news on the exciting developments.
Thanks, Tom, and I'll be brief. I know everyone's busy. As the chair just indicated, we had reached a previous settlement with Purdue Pharma in its bankrupt state and with the individual members of the Sackler family to resolve opioid-related claims allegedly involving those entities. This ultimately, the U.S. Supreme Court overturned that settlement several months ago, and the parties quickly got back around the negotiation table to try and fashion a settlement that would adhere to the dictates of the Supreme Court's decision. Happy to report that we have had success after thousands of hours. And very, very briefly, the new settlement with Purdue Pharma, which is a bankrupt company, and the individual members of the Sackler family who did not declare bankruptcy, is for upwards of $7.4 billion. 900 million of that would come from the bankruptcy estate of Purdue Pharma, and the remaining $6.5 billion would be contributed by the various members of the Sackler family. This is an agreement in principle. There's details to be worked out, and there's a lot of work still to be done. So anything I'm discussing today really won't come into play for the opioid trust until later this year, because the settlements have to work their way through the bankruptcy process with Purdue Pharma and through a separate district court or state court settlement mechanism with the individual members of the Sackler family. So to cut to the chase, out of the 7.4 billion, with, you know, if all were to go as well as it could go, Pennsylvania could, under the best of circumstances, with everything working out the way it needs to, could expect to receive upwards of $212.7 million over a 15-year payout plan. The current settlement deal is front-loaded in that when the bankruptcy is worked out for Purdue Pharma, that company would put the $900 million onto the settlement table right there. The Sackler family would pay $1.5 billion at that time. And again, we're talking maybe late third quarter of this year. It's hard to say. Bankruptcy can be unpredictable. but this is not anything that's coming in tomorrow. So that's what, so Pennsylvania's best estimate for the ideal payout would be 212.7 million. And it's over 15 years. And the payout after that emergence payment varies over the years, but it comes to that total if we're able to meet the various incentives built into the deal, similar to virtually every opioid settlement that's been entered into to date. There are also other provisions, non-monetary, involved in the settlement, but since the trust is concerned with the distribution of settlement funds, it doesn't really implicate trust activities, but there will be a document repository. There'll be other injunctive terms in the deal. Tom, I think, or I hope that's a sufficient summary.
Yes, do any trustees have any questions regarding the settlements? We did want to provide the update. I would like to take this opportunity, though, to congratulate the Attorney General's office, and that's everybody involved with this over the last 5 years with the Attorney General's office. It has been a lot of negotiations. Pennsylvania has taken a lead. Pennsylvania has hit above its weight by receiving more money than what its population would indicate due to the terms that were negotiated initially with the distributors and with J&J, then subsequently with the additional distributors and with the pharmacies, and now with the SACROs. It will mean a total for Pennsylvania over a course of 18 years of about $2 billion total comes into Pennsylvania to help fight this epidemic, and it is really due to the excellent work of the Attorney General's office, which remains independent from the trust, but is the one that negotiates these settlements and provides us with the money so that we can end up giving it out pursuant to the terms of the different settlement agreements. So really appreciate everything, Neil, and I hope you pass that on to all your colleagues at the AG's office. I think we all recognize the amount of work you all have done, and it is a tremendous amount of work. So thank you.
I will. Thank you, Tom.
Stuart, I believe you have a question.
Yeah, just real quick. The initial reports on the settlement indicated there was going to be an $800 million legal defense fund for the Sacklers. Do you know anything about that?
That's one of the details that's being worked out. These deals can get very, very intricate, and there's always a question. What the defendants always seek is global peace. And so there is a provision that allows for the retention of certain funds in the event of litigation down the road by entities that do not settle. That money and it's under very limited circumstances and very defined circumstances. And if that money is not used for those very limited litigation defense uses, the money reverts back to the settlement fund.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you very much, Neil. Now I'd like to turn it to Lisa Ritter of our accounting firm, Amar Dussel, who will give an overview of the trust financial statements through December 31, 2024, and also an overview of the 2025 budget. Lisa?
You have received a copy of the income statement for the fiscal year ended December 31st, 2024. That is our fiscal year, so that will coincide with the information on the tax return we'll talk about a little bit later. The income statement is on a cash basis, so we record things when we get the cash, and we include expenses when we write checks or transfer cash. If you look at the revenue that we've received approximately $6 million in interest income. And just as an aside, our administrative expenses approximate 1.4, 1.5 million in a given year. Total revenue, together with settlement funds received, was 321 million. And if I look at expenses, including what's been distributed for this fiscal year, it's 267 million. So that net of about 53.9 million or $54 million, it's added to the balance in our account, but we will have to pay the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania for monies that are owed to them. We'll be paying that in June. That's about 20 million. We're also holding money that Cencora prepaid. We'll pay it when those distributions are scheduled to be made, of about 21 million. So out of the 53 million, there's a little more than 40 million that we're holding that has to be paid to certain entities. But we do have a balance consisting of excess investment income or interest income over expenses. Happy to take questions about that before I talk about the budget.
Any questions? Okay, on to the budget.
A budget has been prepared to estimate the interest income for that we are expected to earn for the year. I am projecting less than you just saw on the financial statements, and that is because our balance is lower. We just made significant distributions. So I'm estimating our income to be about 3.5 million. Our current interest rate is 4.36%. I've estimated when I believe settlement funds will come in and how we'll earn interest, but it's only an estimate. The expenses are estimated based on last year's expenses and going back to the list of persons involved in finding out what the expectation is for this year. So it's a combination. Our total expenses here are estimated to be 1.4 million. And interest income of 3.5 that you can see. So we will easily be able to cover our administrative expenses with the interest that we earn from the Wilmington Trust account. I think there's a question.
Okay, question from Morgan.
Thank you, Chairman, for giving me the floor on behalf of Senator Rothman. I mentioned this in executive session, and I'll just mention it again here in the public meeting. Senator Rothman continues to be concerned at the legal fees and the expenses that the trust is incurring, and would like to see that number come down in this fiscal year, and for us to be ever mindful that any money we're spending on legal fees is funding that we could not be pushing out to programs. Thank you.
Thank you, Morgan, for mentioning that. And yes, you did bring that up in the executive session. And I'll repeat a little bit. We do keep a close eye on it. We would like to keep all of our expenses well under control. I'm happy to reiterate that thus far, we have our administrative expenses has always been well under the amount of interest income that we have earned, so that no corpus of the money that has been received from the settling defendants has ever been used for administrative expenses. There's a much work that is done on the legal side, including 3 different appeals. Last year, there were a number of Right to Know Act requests that were made and answered and went to court, or at least went to the administrative overseer. And having said that, we will keep an eye on the expenses, but I do feel, and I would be remiss if I didn't say, I think all of the expenses thus far have been justified. We received a substantial discount from the law firm in doing it. And in fact, that discount includes write-offs where they feel there might have been redundant expenses. So they're doing a job of policing themselves. And in addition, they are reviewed by myself and by CCAP. So, but I hear what you say, and we will make every effort to keep all of our expenses as under control as we possibly can. Other questions?
Thank you, Tom.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, I can't find my hand here to put my hand up. This is postal. Can you flesh out a little bit the administration line of 333? I'm assuming most of that is our CCAP contract.
It's CCAP.
Okay,
It is
for
this.
two positions that we're budgeting for.
Can you answer to me how many, I don't know how many is in the budget of the estimate you gave me, but I'm assuming two.
Yes,
Ah,
so the master service agreement with CCAP for 2025 would include 3 positions. It would be the administrative director, the administrative support position, as well as the participating subdivision liaison position.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. Thank you.
And Rob, I would say there have been some changes at CCAP since the time that, Lisa Gallagher made her initial presentation of the budget at the November meeting. There have been some changes which has delayed the hiring of those administrative positions. So I think likely there will be a 3 to 4 month saving in those additional positions that we agreed could be implemented, okay? So,
I expect that. Thank you.
okay. Other questions regarding the budget? Okay, with that, we will move on to the approval of programs, just by way of a little bit of background. You'll recall at the public meeting of the trust in February of last year, almost a year ago, the board of the trust approved a resolution to require counties to submit to the board by the September 15th, showing the actual expenditure of trust funds. That was adopted because of the fact that the initial reporting period of March 15th, which we had approved far earlier, it did not capture everything that we wanted it to capture, mostly because counties have 18 months to spend the money, and a substantial amount of money didn't go out until December of 2022, which means that it wouldn't have had to be spent until June of 24. So we wanted to have the additional reporting requirement in order to make sure that we caught the additional programs on which money might have been spent, to give as much guidance as possible as to whether it was permissible use of expenses. I will also say that we also did it from the standpoint that we hope by doing it on a 6-month basis, we wouldn't be quite as overwhelmed with the more than 400 reports that we received in the initial reporting period. So a little bit was to remove some of that burden from the trust. I will say that as of September 16th, all 67 counties submitted reports to the trust detailing the expenditures. Sunday was September 15th was a Sunday, so they had until that Monday to do it. And we reviewed all of those at a public meeting in November of 2024, based upon the recommendation of the working groups. And we acted on a majority of the programs, and I will say in excess of 70% of the programs that were submitted were approved and deemed to be compliant, showing to me that counties really learned a lot from the initial reporting period and what determinations we made, and that we all, as we expected, have learned something from the very beginning of this process. And we're learning a little bit more about Exhibit E, what is allowed, what won't be allowed. And the counties are doing a very good job, in my opinion, of complying with it. But we did, at the time of the public meeting on November 21, 2024, we did name several programs as being characterized as still under consideration at that meeting. So the trust did request additional information for those programs that were still under consideration, and the working groups met during January and February in order to review the additional information. What we're now going to do is review the recommendations made by the working group so the board may fulfill its responsibilities and either approve, disapprove, or might continue to still ask for additional information. Following today's public meeting and the actions by the board, each county will receive a follow-up communication from the trust, which will detail those programs that have been approved as compliant with Exhibit E to the settlement agreements, or disapproved as non-compliant. With that, the board will now review the programs submitted. I would ask that the working group heads, make the presentation and that they try to go by county name, the program number that was reported in the follow-up report from that county, the program name, the dollars that were reported as spent or committed, and the working group's recommendation. We will then deal with, people can ask questions as they want with regard, as we go along, and then we will try to group together and pass the resolution whereby the board will either approve the working group's recommendation or deny it. But we will do that in groups of 15 or so. Yeah. So with that, if we could start with Butler County. Excuse me, with Allegheny County, which was working group number 3. Shay, I believe that will be you.
Yep, it is. I gotta get my glasses for this. So we have Allegheny County, program number 17 with, is it Biobot Analytics wastewater testing? We recommended approval. Oh, I'm sorry, and the amount was $17,110.
I would also add with regard to that one that has received not insignificant amount of public attention in the newspapers in Allegheny County, very positive attention as to how and the uses this could be made and how it could act to help with trying to stymie some of the effects of the remediation. So with that, if there's no questions, we will move on to Butler County, which was working group number 3 also. Shay?
Butler County program number 8 with the Butler County Prison, the MX 908 with the Letty program in the amount of $65,950.68. We recommend approval.
Any questions? Okay, moving on to Cameron County, and I will note that there is one program from Cameron County that I will deal with after all of these. The one that I would like to have working group number 2, which is going to be presented by Stuart Fisk, deal with is the Cameron County program number 4, which is the Emporium Recovery Hub. Stuart.
Sure. Cameron County, program number 4, alcohol and drug abuse services with ADAS Emporium Recovery Hub. $0 spent, $35,000 committed, and we recommend approval.
Okay, questions? Okay, that will move us on to Chester County, and that's also working group number 2, Stuart.
Yeah, Chester County, program 37, Chester County SCA. Prevention alternative activities post-prom mini grant. Total spent $29,999.80. $0 committed, and we recommend approval.
Okay. And then any questions on that? Okay, that will move us on to Cumberland County, and once again, Stuart.
Yeah, program number 5, Cumberland County, Cumberland Perry Drug and Alcohol Commission. This is for student assistance, early intervention. Total spent $39,060.72, and total committed was $46,153.28, and we recommend approval.
Okay, other questions? And I will say, by the way, with regard to all of these where the approval is now recommended, there was a substantial amount of additional information that was supplied by the counties. They responded very well to our request for additional information. And one of the reasons that made the working group's job a little bit easier is because of the volume of information, and the working groups were able to be completely satisfied that Exhibit E was being complied with. We'll move on then to Delaware County, and there's three programs with Delaware, and Stuart, those are all yours also.
For Delaware County, program number 27, Delaware County Emergency Services. This is for Lucas chest compression device, for emergency services, $0 spent and 175,513.50 committed. We recommended non-compliant.
And if I could add to that one, that one of the reasons why it was deemed to be non-compliant, this was one that Delaware County, from the very beginning, their Department of Emergency Services had recommended this kind of emergency of the compression device, but readily acknowledged it was not solely for opioids. It could be used for opioids, but the primary purpose of it was going to be for other purposes and other emergency medical services. So that was one of the reasons that we were recommending non-compliance. So there wasn't enough information, therefore, to establish a demonstrated connection, and it didn't appear to be sufficiently related just to opioids, or even what percentage might be associated with opioids. Okay, Stuart, if there's no other questions, you want to move on?
Again, Delaware County, program number 28, International Center for Alleviation of Poverty. This was immigrant opioid prevention education. Total spent was $0, and total committed was $550,000, and we recommended approval. I'm sorry, I dropped down. Sorry, no, the $0 spent, committed was $56,000, 254 and 0 cents, and we recommend approval. A spreadsheet fatigue. I'm sorry, it's been a long week.
Okay, any questions regarding that? Is that all? 33. And program number 33 for Delaware County Stuart.
All right, Shevlin Family Foundation, Family Recovery Community Center, $0 spent, committed was $550,000, and we recommend approval.
Okay. Having heard those, this is a good place to break off and try to deal with these by way of a resolution. I would like to propose that somebody make a motion that resolve the Board of Trustees of the Pennsylvania Opioid Trust, based on the recommendations of the working groups that met and reviewed the follow-up reports from the counties, hereby approves the following programs as compliant with the applicable settlement terms as set forth in Exhibit E, described and incorporated into the July 12, 2024 order of the Commonwealth Court. Allegheny Program number 17, Butler County Program number 8, Cameron County Program number 4, Chester County Program number 37, Cumberland County Program number 5, Delaware County Programs number 28 and 33. Could I have a motion to that effect, please? Jamie, Representative, could I have the second, please?
This is Shay. I'll second.
Thank you, Shay. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions?
I'm going to abstain on Allegheny, and I say aye to the rest.
Equally, I abstain from Butler and aye to all the rest.
Thank you. You have those abstentions, okay? And the second resolution regarding the ones that we just went over, further resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Trust, based upon the recommendation of a working group, hereby disapproves the following program as not compliant with the applicable settlement terms as set forth in Exhibit E, and that's Delaware County Program number 27. Could I have a resolution to that effect, please?
I'll move the motion. It's postal.
Thank you, Ron. Second? Second by Representative Flick. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. Resolution passes, and we will send out the appropriate notification to the county. With that, we can move on to, I would propose we move on to Elk County. And Elk County will be presented by
That's me.
Shayna.
Yeah. Elk County program number 6, in the amount of $34,300. We would recommend approval.
Any questions? And by the way, I do feel it should, because the one-line description given for this doesn't necessarily do it justice. It's talked about installing a screening cover above the outdoor yard at the Elk County Prison. This is not for purposes of protecting people from the sun, et cetera. It is developed that in Elk County, they had tremendous problems with people throwing drugs over the fence, through the screening and into the prison. And with that further explanation that we got from Elk, it was deemed to be something that we should recommend. With that, we can move on to Forest County. Shay, that's also you.
Yep. Thanks, Tom, for that comment. Forest County program number 1, Forest County Trust Fund Advisory Committee, in the amount of $1,919.97. We recommend approval. Forest County program number 2, Phoenix Project with Family Services of Warren County, in the amount of $34,166. We recommend approval. Forest County program number 3 with the Forest Area School District, Speak Sobriety, in the amount of $7,000. We recommend approval. And Forest County program number 4, again, the Forest County Trust Committee, Community Prevention Activities, in the amount of $3,674.63. We recommend approval.
Thank you. Any questions regarding any of Forest County? And as Shay noted, that the one program, Project Phoenix, was being done in conjunction with Warren County, and there would be a similar recommendation for Warren County that we would be recommending approval for. Okay, with that, we will move on to Lawrence County, and that was working group with Shay. That's also you.
Tell me. Lawrence County program number 10, Game Changer Youth Program, in the amount of $20,000. We recommended non-compliant.
Okay. Any questions regarding Lawrence County? Okay, that will move us on to Philadelphia, where there are a number of programs that we asked for additional information, in which the
Excuse me, before you move on to Philadelphia, this is Secretary Davis Jones. Can you talk a little bit about why the previous program was considered non-compliant?
Shay?
If I'm remembering correctly, there was discussion about whether or not how the referrals would be made to the program, and if they were actually capturing at-risk youth.
Did we ask for follow-up information?
We did. They also did not, it's not an evidence-based program, which the trust has taken the position that it needed to be evidence-based or evidence-informed prevention, which also did not fall under.
Yeah, but does that evidence-based or evidence-informed tab back to Exhibit E? And when we think about prevention strategies such as alternative activities, after-school programs, how is that any different than programs that we would in the state or at the SEA pay for as prevention activities?
Secretary, I can also tell you that they didn't provide the curriculum when asked, and I believe we went back to them several times. And yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I'm struggling with that one a little bit, to be honest with you. Because I can't sort of understand how a prevention activity that would historically be funded through after-school programming using federal and or state dollars would historically be funded. And I'm trying to understand why. And I get that you didn't get the additional information, but we both know that after-school programs are typically programs that can be funded.
Correct.
Yes.
But not uniformly, Secretary. You might recall there was an after-school program with Somerset County that is now up on appeal to the Commonwealth Court, where, yes, it was an afternoon program, after-school program, but it was not shown that it was connected to people that were at risk to be using opioids. It was there was no attempt to ascertain who might have been involved in the program, how people were selected for the program, and was merely an after-school program.
We can't predict who will become involved with opioids. There's no way to tell that. And the idea is prevention, right? The goal is to prevent. So if you're educating kids, giving them an opportunity to engage in other activities outside of potentially engaging in harmful activities as exploratory drug use, there's opportunity there, right? And so again, I will say for the record, from my perspective, us not allowing this particular approval of activity, again, is not in alignment with what we would do in the state as it relates to my department and what we fund through federal and state funds.
That isn't, I have to say, was it through settlement monies or is it through federal funds that were independent of any settlement money?
It could be all of our funds.
Okay, so it's all of your funds and
I'm not gonna, Tom, what I'm not gonna do is go back and forth with you. This is the area that I work in day in and out, every single day. It is after-school programs or prevention programs, and putting extra sort of criteria around whether or not a county is allowed to pay for certain services that are outlined in Exhibit E, I'm not aligned with. So that's just my feedback.
My piece of this is I think I understood Shay to say that she did not receive the information. So I'm going off of that determination that they didn't receive enough information. So
Yeah, and without going back and forth, Secretary, I would say that in giving state money, you're not obligated to make sure that it does comply with Exhibit E. One of our requirements is that it complies. It was a settlement agreement that each county, including Lawrence, had agreed to. And as Commissioner Boozle just said, it was deemed that there was insufficient information to establish a connection to OUD, and did not appear, based upon the information we had, to be related to OUD prevention and/or treatment. So, but you'll have an opportunity to vote on it when we vote on the resolution regarding it. Anything else regarding Lawrence County?
Tom, could I just provide some feedback to Secretary Davis' comment? The concern was the lack of information that we received back. However, I will tell you that I agree with you. This is something as the SCA we would fund. I am not the only person on the working committee, so it's put me in an awkward position of having a committee decision that not necessarily I am aligned with. If that makes sense.
Thank you, Shay, for saying that.
I'm struggling.
Yep.
It's hard.
Yeah, and it's important that we have this dialogue.
Agreed.
It's important. We need to have this transparent dialogue about what we're seeing today.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Secretary and Shay, one thing I would say, and just being a part of this process now for a little bit and seeing how we acted and responded to other requests, I would hope that if this county decides to appeal it to that first level appeal review, that they provide the information that's been requested, or even just talk about what the program is, because I agree with both of you all, and we've certainly had this discussion around other counties and other programs. So hopefully they will, if they appeal, they'll submit the the information that was kind of requested and asked for.
Other comments? Okay, that will move us on to Philadelphia, and you have a number of them. Kevin, that was your working group.
Yes, thank you, Tom. I will try to be as quick as I can, but I do want to start off by saying that this is one of the examples where a lot of these were denied based on information, and this group has really come together and delivered that information. So I wanted to put that out there and say thank you to the folks that did that. Philadelphia project number 74, Black Muslim Men United. They had 100,000 committed and no spent. Is that correct? Because I can't see the top line. 100,000 committed, not spent. And this was recommended for approval. Project number 75, Women in Dialogue. This is a $20,000 commitment, no dollars expended, and also recommended for approval. Project number 76, Cade Kids. This was a $100,000 allotment and 0 expended, and it was also recommended for approval. The project number 79, Hope, was allotted 100,000 and 0 expended, and it was also recommended for approval. Philadelphia project 82, You Are the Key, had a $20,000 commitment, $0 expended, and it was also recommended approval. Philadelphia project number 83, Uplift Center for Grieving Children, $100,000 committed, none spent, and it was also recommended for approval. Project number 84, the Reawakening Agency, was allotted 100,000, committed 100,000, 0 expended, and it was also recommended for approval. Philadelphia number 86, Everywhere Project. It was allotted 20,000, committed 20,000, 0 expended. It was also recommended for approval. The Philadelphia number 88 project, Ordinary Heroes, $100,000 committed and none expended, was also recommended for approval. Philadelphia number 89, the African American Male Wellness Agency, was allotted, committed 100,000 and none was expended, and it was also recommended for approval. Philadelphia project number 109, Operation Save Our City, $20,000 committed, 0 expended, was also recommended for approval. Philadelphia number 113, Northwest Community Court Program, allotted, committed 20,000, 0 expended, was also recommended for approval. And the final Philadelphia project is number 116, Raw Civic Association, and it was committed 100,000, 0 expended, and was also recommended for approval. That concludes my Philadelphia report.
Thank you very much. And I would just like to reiterate one thing that Kevin noted, and that was that we did receive a substantial amount of additional information from Philadelphia. In most cases, the programs that we sent back for further information, the original request had 1 sentence on it, and I'm going to give you an example of that. And we felt that the additional information was substantial enough that it justified in each case. The one I'd like to call special attention to is program number 76, which was Cade Kids, and it was submitted to us that it would support summer camp and after-school programming that combine the importance of learning essential life skills with engaging hands-on activities aimed at reducing a student's likelihood of using or misusing drugs. And we sent that back for further information. And that's an after-school programming one. The information we got back was Cage Kids will support a summer camp program that highlights the importance of substance use abuse through engaging hands-on activities for youth in high-risk neighborhoods. Positively engaging youth hands-on activities is an evidence-based approach to preventing substance use disorder as it reinforces pro-social behaviors and critical life skills. Team building, stream activities, field trips, guest speakers, and other enrichment opportunities will expose students to new experiences and expand their perspectives. This comprehensive program empowers youth to make positive choices and build healthier futures. In addition to this, the project will integrate the evidence-based positive action life skill curriculum, which cultivates positive self-esteem, emotional development and management, and resiliency through practicing a cycle of positive actions. So I hope you see from that there being an after-school program, but there was the educational aspects to it. There was in addition to providing activities, there were guest speakers, team building activities, all aimed at directly, and it supplied the fact that it is also evidence-based. So I just want to use that as an example because of the prior discussion. Any other questions with you, Philadelphia?
Tom, I just need to make one clarifying statement. On Project 84, we had not received that when we did our work group. We didn't receive, they missed giving us the additional information. They did subsequently deliver that information, although we could not pull the work group back together in time. So I made a decision. I know I referenced you in the decision making, but I went ahead and added it. I think there's more than enough evidence there. I know the rest of the work group received that information. I want to point it out that they did not have a chance to weigh in, and I'm giving an opportunity, sort of highlighting this to say, look, I put this on, but I really do, I don't discount your information or concern. So I want to make sure that they had an opportunity to specifically look at that. And that was the We Awakening Agency will continue the empowerment communities in North Philadelphia to focus on reintegration support for formerly incarcerated individuals, especially those affected by substance abuse and disorder. It more than, in my opinion, met the benchmark, and so I just wanted to point that out. So thank you, and I'd open it up to any of the work board of Work Group 1.
Any further discussion? Jamie, I believe you're a part of this work group as Senator Tartaglione. Nathan, you are representing Senator Tartaglione. Do any of you want to weigh in as to whether or not this should not, Program 84 should or should not be approved?
Yeah, I don't, Chairman, want to weigh in on that based on my limited experience, but I will say overall, in looking at these after-school projects, I'm excited to see the outcomes. Very, very excited. So each and every one of these in all 67 counties. So I know that's sort of going around your question, but
No.
That's my answer. But I've not had time to study 84 myself. So thank you.
Nate, do you have anything you want to add with regard to 84?
No, the senator, saw the correspondence about Program 84 and is good with approval. I know I can't vote, but would just share that, and I guess she would echo what Commissioner Boozle said.
Thank you, Nate.
Okay, any other discussion of Philadelphia programs? Hearing none, I would like to ask for the following resolution. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Trust, based upon a recommendation of the working groups that met and reviewed the follow-up reports from counties, hereby approves the following programs as compliant with the applicable settlement terms set forth in Exhibit E, described and incorporated into the July 12, 2022 order of the Commonwealth Court that created the trust as amended. That's L County Program number 6, Forest County Programs numbers 1 through 4, and Philadelphia County Programs number 74 to 76, Program 79, Programs 82 to 84, Program 86, Programs 88 and 89, Program 109, Program 113, and Program 116. Could I have a motion to that effect, please?
So moved, Commissioner Boozle.
Thank you. Could I have a second?
Sure.
Second.
Agenda Flick has seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, thank you. Opposed? And I would assume, Tamara, that you probably want to abstain on this one.
Thank you, sir. Yes.
For Philadelphia. Right, as far as Philadelphia is concerned. Okay, motion passes. And with regard to the program that we had discussion about, resolve further, the Board of Trustees of the Trust, based on the recommendations of the working groups, hereby disapproves the following program as non-compliant with the applicable settlement terms as set forth in Exhibit E, Lawrence Program number 10. Could I have a motion to that effect, please?
Move the motion as postal.
Thank you. And second.
I'll second, Commissioner Boozle.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Opposed. This is Shay.
Opposed. Latika, opposed.
Okay, we're gonna have to call roll on that, if you don't mind.
Okay. Tamar Alexander,
Aye.
Commissioner Kevin Boozle,
Aye.
Secretary Latika Davis Jones,
Say that one more time. I'm sorry. What are we doing?
are on the vote. Are you?
Oh, I'm opposed if we're still talking about Lawrence County.
Yes.
We are.
Stuart Quest,
Aye.
Representative Jamie Flick,
Aye.
Shay Madden,
Opposed.
Commissioner Robert Coastal,
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Motion passes. Okay, let's move on to, Warren County, I believe is next. As I had mentioned, one of these we had already, approved with regard to forest, but, let's have the full presentation of it. This is working group number 2, Stuart. Stuart, I think you're on mute.
Is that how this works? Yeah, sorry. Warren County, Program 1, Medication Assisted Treatment, $6,216.57. Recommend approval.
Questions?
Warren County number 4, Warren County Adult Probation, Parolee Drug Screening, $2,545.42. Recommend non-compliant. And Warren County Prison, Program number 5, Community Drug Prevention, $1,712. Recommend approval.
Okay, any questions on any of Warren counties?
Can you refresh my memory, Stuart, on the Warren County one that we're not approving? I don't remember.
Yeah, there was insufficient information to establish a demonstrated connection to opioid use disorder. It doesn't really appear to sufficiently be related to OUD prevention.
Is it a prevention activity?
No, I'm not sure what it really, I think it didn't appear sufficiently related to, well, I'm sorry. They said prevent overdose deaths and other harms.
If I could
So-
recall that and help me out, this is postal. The thought the discussion was more around if a parolee is being tested and tests positive, you now have violated your parole and you're going back to jail.
It was, that was the third, and probably the most important point was that, that Exhibit E does, not authorize expenditures on law enforcement, and this seemed to be consistent with law enforcement.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on Warren County? Moving on to Westmoreland County, Kevin.
Thank you, Tom. This is Westmoreland County project number 13. It is the Hill Group, 15,600 committed, 8,400 expended, and it is recommended for approval. I don't think Wyoming is mine.
Okay, moving on to
Oh, it is.
Wyoming.
Yep. Wyoming County, their project number 3, Wyoming County Human Services, media campaign, public education campaign. They have nothing committed, 100,000 expended, and it was recommended for approval as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions on any of those? Okay, I'd like to ask for the following resolution. Resolved that the Board of Trustees, based on a recommendation of the working groups hereby approves the following programs as compliant with the applicable terms as set forth in Exhibit E, described and incorporated into the July 12, 2022 order of the Commonwealth Court. Warren County programs number 1 and 5, Westmoreland County program number 13, Wyoming County program number 3. Could I have a motion to that effect, please? Yeah, Representative Flick, second.
Second.
More, any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, and then the final resolution that we're going to be asking for under this series will be further resolve that the Board of Trustees of the Trust, based upon recommendations of the working group, hereby disapproves the following program as non-compliant with the applicable settlement terms as set forth in Exhibit E, Warren County program number 4. Could I have a motion to that effect, please?
So moved.
Evans, is there a second? Thank you, Ron. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, with that, we are going to move on, and I mentioned that there was going to be one county that didn't quite fall within the purview of having been considered at the September 6th meeting, and that is several expenditures by Cameron County. And let me just give you a little bit of refresher on this. This was actually a program that was submitted. It's their Cameron County program number 2, which they labeled as Governmental Agency Assistance Initiatives. And this was a program that was really decided at the June meeting, not the September meeting. And it was denied at the June 20th meeting, and result is not being in compliance, and therefore no further information was really requested on that. I would say that they appealed, didn't appeal until early December, as I recall, and that is outside the 30 days that we have now mandated appeals had to be filed. We've now mandated, and going forward, any appeal is gonna have to be filed, the dispute resolution committee is gonna have to be filed within 30 days. However, we felt we didn't make that totally clear at the time Cameron County was involved, and therefore we did allow Cameron County to make the appeal to the dispute resolution committee. Cameron County submitted a lot of information regarding this. And essentially it boils down that they were giving salary increases to people in child and youth services program. And they were also giving salary increases to the probation officers. And we had a full discussion about it, and we really ascertained the dispute resolution committee was really torn on this. And on one hand, we have said for a long time that money should not be used for salary increases as such. Rather, it should be used, and that would be considered to be something of, yes, they could use it to hire new people, to institute new programs, but to the extent that it was being used for salary increases solely for purposes of people administering things that they were already doing, that was not a proper use. Cameron did make a persuasive case, I believe, to us regarding this, that being a smaller county of 4,500 people, there's a lot of competition. They had to really match salaries in order to be able to hire people. And I think made a pretty persuasive argument regarding this, that in cases like this, smaller counties where salary increases were really given to retain people in lieu of recruiting new people, et cetera, that is something that should be allowed. That didn't address all of the questions, though, raised by Cameron County. One, the money, part of those salary increases to the tune of about $9,000 was going to child and youth services. They did outline the programs, and we did, I think, across the board, the dispute resolution committee did feel as if we were going to authorize this money going to salary increases, to the extent of salary increases for CYS type of programs, that it was something that we could see our way clear. However, with regard to the probation and officers, and with regard to everything we have done in the past with regard to probation officers and said no to, that the probation officers was not something that should be approved. However, we also, in further conversations with the working group, et cetera, we did feel as if Cameron could still be able to make a case for why it wasn't probation officers in the typical sense, given, once again, the size of the county, but we just didn't have enough information to do that. This was all incorporated in resolutions of the dispute resolution committee. Council reached out to council for Cameron. We offered Cameron the opportunity to submit additional information. They did. We told them we needed it in time that the working group could consider the additional information, and then we would present it to this meeting. In fact, we didn't hear any response until late in the day on Monday, and there just was not time to get the working group together in order to consider the totality of it as it relates particularly to the probation officers. For that reason, we felt that although we couldn't rule totally on probation officers, consistent with everything else, we should provide Cameron with a continued ability to represent and to provide information that would support probation officers being entitled to these wage increases under the same theory that we had used for the governmental services. So, having said that, but I'd like to have a discussion on And I would like it in the form of resolutions so that we can then just discuss both resolutions that I'd like to ask for. Get a second to those and then have a, whatever discussion people want to have. The first resolution would be resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Opioid Trust hereby approves as compliant with the applicable terms as set forth in Exhibit E, those portions of Cameron County Program Number 2 that relate to opioid settlement funds expended to support children and youth services in the amount of $8,949, number that was supplied by them, by the way. The second resolution I would like to ask for, as the second resolution is further resolved, the Board of Trustees hereby refers back to the relevant working group those portions of Cameron County Program Number 2 that relate to opioid settlement funds expended to support probation officers in the amount of $13,893. And it was felt that the working group should have a further chance. And if they wanted further information, we certainly would allow Cameron County to submit the additional information. We thought that was reasonable as opposed to just denying Cameron County and making them go to the dispute resolution committee again. So having said that, could I have a motion for both of the resolutions that I just set forth?
I'll move the resolutions as postal.
Thanks, Rob. Could I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Representative Flip. Okay, discussion on the resolutions.
If I remember postal again, notwithstanding the salary issue, that the discussion for CYS was a little clear that the caseworkers were actually working with families. So the activities that the caseworkers were providing were, I don't know if I want to use counseling, but we're working with the families. The problem with probation was the same problem, a similar problem that we had with other probation types of activities. And that is they are working with parolees. And is there a referral set up that if you don't comply with conditions of your parole, that you're going back to jail? And I think they told us this, and I'm not sure about this, and that's why I think maybe we do need some more information, that there is this referral system that if you test pot, you're not automatically going back to jail, that they have a system set up. Also, yeah, it is a small county, and expecting them to hire people to do that, it's just not realistic or economic.
Right. I agree with what you just said. Other discussion on motions.
I would just like a little bit more clarity regarding not only the child welfare piece. I'm trying to understand if we have historically taken the position that we're not allowing opioid settlement funds to be used to raise salaries, understanding the conditions in which child welfare workers are currently, the environment that they're working with. And yes, definitely working with families impacted by the opioid crises. What distinction are we clearly making about their role that is tied to what we believe is compliant with Exhibit E? That's what I'm trying to understand.
Yeah, I believe what they do, Secretary, is they have tied that the work done by Child and Youth Services is something that is compliant with Exhibit E. We believe that they made a good case that the only way for them to retain people to be able to provide those services for Child and Youth Services, and therefore help the people of their county given their size, was to provide salary increases, as opposed to just using some of it. The distinction I would draw, frankly, a lot of it is size of county. I might not say the same thing for Allegheny, Westmoreland, Philadelphia, where I believe there are a lot of other funds, but this is a county that, and I think there are others that fall within it, where at least I was persuaded that, the use of, giving salary increases to go to people who were then providing services that are authorized by Exhibit E would in fact be compliant with Exhibit E.
Yeah, and I think that's what I'm challenged by, right? This idea that we would do one thing for one county and not do it for another, right? Because if we're saying that the activities are compliant with Exhibit E, but we're only going to do it for one county and not, let's say, Allegheny County, because they're a larger county, how do we, I don't know how we justify that. And believe me, I understand that some, county sizes across the Commonwealth, vary. But if we're taking an objective position, and so, are we being subjective? I mean, I'm trying to understand if we have historically said that this is a position, and even to take it a little bit further, when we think about it from the perspective of, I think we're talking about punitive measures, right? And concerned about probation officers and the potential for someone to go to jail. My question would also be raised around the fact when there are families involved in child welfare, is there risk of the parents losing their child as a result of not following the case manager's recommendations and suggestions?
If I may, Mr. Chair, I think this is a huge debate in the DRC as well. And in the fact that when I looked at that, and I agree with you 100%, Madam Secretary, I truly am struggling with this whole piece of going to smaller counties, larger. I think what they were able to do that was different was that they proved that they didn't have any other resources available to even contract. They don't have the available services available. So they're supplementing their children and youth caseworkers to do it. I think that's what drove it over the line for me. And I know it's hard because it's one of those things like do it for one, do it for all. But I think that they've proven not only that they didn't have anyone else to contract with, but their CYS are working more on a social services end to solve that. That's what I remember. But I agree with you. I struggled 100% the same way. So thanks.
Yeah, I'm trying to address, this is Jason Wolfgang, counsel for the trust. I'm trying to address in particular Secretary Davis Jones' concerns. And what I would say is when it comes to Exhibit E, not all staffing funding is the same. So for example, Exhibit E specifically authorizes support for children's services, including funding additional positions and services. It also talks about staffing in connection with government or non-for-profit agencies to support collaborative cross-system coordination. I don't want to read all the language and take up everybody's time with it, but what Exhibit E does not expressly authorize is funding for law enforcement activities. And we've seen other states take a very similar position with respect to interpreting Exhibit E. And so at least in terms of approving the CYS funding and deferring for the moment on the probation officer funding, pending further information, it does appear that there is support in Exhibit E for that decision. In fact, arguably, and look, this is all hindsight and therefore 2020, arguably these two things should have been reported separately. They weren't. The trust is trying to, do its best to accommodate, the counties and the information the way it was submitted without making everybody go back and do things all over again. So I think that there is a very clear rationale for bifurcating the CYS decision from the probation officer decision. I don't know if that addresses your concern, but I think Exhibit E is pretty clear on it.
Yeah, I will say that addresses a part of my concern. I would just officially say that I think it's important as the trust that when we're making decisions that we truly need to be objective. The idea that I would hear someone say, while we would not want to approve this for a larger county, but we would do it for a smaller county, that's where I get very concerned, because that doesn't come across to me as being objective, right? If we're going, if there's support for the activity within Exhibit E, then whether the county is large or small, right? It's important that we stay objective. And when we have members of the trust speaking to the fact that they would or would not support something based on whatever reason, but there is evidence in Exhibit E that it should be supported, it concerns me.
Well, maybe the way to think that, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, is what other resources are available. And again, everybody knows we struggled with this one. In a smaller county, the resources from others just aren't available, and so they're trying to bring the resources through these two departments. So maybe it goes. The argument would be, what are the available resources or delivery resources for these? But again,
I don't know if that's the argument. I don't know if that's. I would probably say that's not the argument, at least not for me.
Okay. I would say that, you know, would I do the same thing? It depends what a larger county was submitting and what their case was. I think it's clear that children and youth services are allowed. And this was the only way that this particular county could provide those services and maintain the people in order to do it. I personally was convinced of that. I might not be convinced of it in the case of another county secretary, but I have to deal with it on a case-by-case basis when it arises. Other discussion?
Yeah, I would add to that, given my background of software development, I mean, I did human services software for 61. I almost feel like I need to abstain from everything for 61 of the counties. And when I worked with Cameron and Elk and Potter, the small counties, I did treat them different than the Lehighs and the Montgomerys, price-wise and training-wise, and cut them every break I possibly could, because you want to do what's in the best interest of the citizens of each county. So I see where it's a slippery slope. So I think, based on Jason's comments, if we can get it to fit, we can get it to fit. So it is definitely, I completely respect the Secretary's viewpoint on this also. That's why we're having this discussion, so.
Can I get a point of clarification on the salary increase piece? Or has the trust decided that Exhibit E does or does not allow salary increases? As a newcomer, I'm just.
I'm not taking an official position on it. It's in the case of what was presented to us. I do feel an obligation to point out that they pointed out to us for salary increases. And that was one of the initial reasons why we did not approve it. I don't think that this action mandates that we do it for others, but I think it would certainly be a consideration if other counties are doing it for salary increases, that they could always point to Cameron County where we did allow.
I think we can all agree that salary increases are completely different than bonuses, and that monies of this nature should never be used to give bonuses to staff. Is that?
I would agree with that.
Thank you, that's helpful. The second point is, Secretary, and I don't know where the trust should fall on this. It's just, I think that there are objective conditions that differ from county to county, and are we obligated in any way to take those into account in any circumstance? Because all counties are not the same. I mean, as we all know.
Yeah, absolutely. But here's what I would say, Stuart. I've been since 2023 a part of the trust, and my experience has been that some decisions have been very objective, perhaps even, really black and white. You look at the text, Exhibit E, if it's there, it's approved, right? Then there are some cases in which there's nuance to it, right? And where we want to make exceptions, right? So one example was just given today, right? Where the child welfare piece came into play and they're going to give salary increases because there is something in Exhibit E that talks about child services can be funded, and the activities that they're doing are aligned with Exhibit E. And so this whole piece that the trust may sort of start having discussions around whether or not it would be the same activity that's going to be approved for Cameron, to say that they would approve it for a small county, but if you wanted to do it in Allegheny County, that it would be up for discussion. And for me, I don't think that's actually being objective at all, right? I think that is being subjective. They're taking into account, if it's in Exhibit E, then it should be allowable, and we should continue that practice across the board.
Okay, all right, thanks. So it's really of equity.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And by the way, this is one of the reasons I think that we may have been inclined at the dispute resolution committee to allow this to take place. But it was felt that it should come back to the entire trust because it was raising novel issues confronting us, and that if we were going to overrule or if we were going to allow it, it should not just be the dispute resolution committee. Those 7 people doing it, it ought to come back to the entire trust, which is exactly what we're doing right now. So I would just add that this was to give the entire trust an opportunity to voice their opinion. Okay, other questions? Okay, let's vote on the resolution separately. The first resolution was to approve the opioid settlement funds expended to support children and youth services in the amount of $8,949. That has been seconded. We have had discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Hearing no nays and no abstentions, I believe that it passes. I don't believe it does pass. Second, the resolution regarding the probation officers, where the resolution is that we send it back to Cameron County to see what explanations they can give as to why the probation officers do not fall in the same realm as everybody else has fallen into. So we've had our discussion. We have a motion to that effect. Could I ask all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, it passes. Okay, that will let us move on to the next set of resolutions. And first is a resolution regarding the filing of the 2024 tax returns. This is the necessary resolution. You were supplied with just immediately before the meeting with the resolution. I would just point out that tax returns show no taxes are due and owing. So I would like to have a resolution approving the filing of the tax returns. Can I have a motion to that effect, please? And for you. Oh, I'm sorry, and for me to have and that I would have the authority to sign the returns on behalf of the trust. Can I have a motion to that effect? So moved. A second.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you. Passes. Next is a resolution regarding trust accounts and authorized signatures. As I mentioned earlier in the meeting, Lisa Schaefer is no longer serves as the executive director for the County Commissioners Association. And she was a person that was an authorized signatory on the trust bank accounts. Both Wilmington Trust and M&T Bank that hold our monies require a resolution of the trust to remove Ms. Schaefer as an authorized signatory on the trust accounts. Therefore, I'd like to ask for the following motion. Resolve that the Board of Trustees of the Opioid Trust remove Lisa Schaefer as an authorized signatory in relation to any accounts held by the trust. Nothing in this resolution should alter any prior authorizations provided to the County Commissioners Association as set forth in our resolution of May 2nd, 2024, or Meyer Dussel as set forth in the trust resolution of November 30th, 2023, both of which make representatives authorized signatories. But we do need this in order to remove signatory. Could I have a motion to that effect, please?
Motion.
So move. Second?
Second.
Oh,
Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, next is really what is going to be a ratification of something that was done. As I mentioned on my prior comments, the counties were given an automatic, if they asked for it, an automatic 6-month extension in order to spend the original monies. That would have been an extension from June 30th, 2024 to the end of the year. And that would have been to expend money that was distributed in August of 2022 and December of 2022. Various counties did ask for an extension, and it was, as I said, we had agreed that it would be automatically granted, but that they would have to apply for extensions thereafter. Dauphin County came to us with what I thought were very good reasons to ask for an extension beyond December 31st, and in fact asked for time until December 30th, 2025, because of the different programs that they had been considering, but they still hadn't finalized the contracts. We're not in a position to absolutely spend the money or commit to spending the money, but thought they were worthwhile programs, all of which we had approved. I said that we could go ahead. There was not time to have a public meeting. It has to be done in a public meeting of the trust. There was not time in December to do it for this one particular item. Decided not to do it by unanimous written consent, which would have been an alternative. After phone calls to several of the trustees who didn't see any problem with it, agreed with Dauphin County that they could have the extension of time to do it. Now is the time to see whether or not the rest of the trust agrees that we were authorized to do it. So I'd like a motion that Dauphin County's extension request for additional 6-month extensions to expend funds received in the 2022 and 2023 are approved. Dauphin County shall now spend or commit all opioid funds received in December 2022 by June 30th, 2025. Further, Dauphin County shall now expend or commit all opioid settlement funds received in December 2023 by December 30th, 2025. Dauphin County may seek further extensions of these expenditure deadlines if necessary, and such requests will be reviewed on a case-by-case basis. Could I have a motion to that effect, please?
I'll make the motion, Kevin Boozle.
Second?
Second, Postal.
Thank you. Any discussion of the motion?
Yeah, a comment or a question. I guess we would expect as the years roll on, we'll get fewer and fewer, but is this the only county that requested an extension?
Well, beyond the original 6 months that we had already given them, so, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion is granted. Final thing on the agenda is, regarding, what I'll refer to as a, public listening session. Obviously, we've had various requests from different organizations, individuals, to be able to, make presentations at these public meetings. We're not required to under the, Sunshine Act. And in fact, we've encouraged the public participation to be at the county level where the money is being spent and at the litigating subdivision level. And most counties, if not all, have provided the opportunity for the public to provide input as to how the county was spending its money. But we do recognize and therefore we did not allow, public comment at these public meetings, nor in fact are we allowing it today. But we do recognize the value of engaging with the community members to gather what their perspectives might be. Now that we're almost 3 years into this, we would like to make clear that we are going to provide a platform where individuals can express their concerns and suggestions. Over and above that just provided by the website. We already on our website allow people to ask questions. We respond as often as we can and get back to the public. So it's not as if we haven't been providing responses to their questions. But I think people want a chance to be heard outside of just the website inquiry and want to do it in a more public forum. So we've considered that possibility, and we recognize that however, that the trustees are volunteers whose time commitments are respected. But the trust has decided to entertain a public listening session at a future date and time in 2025 to be determined. It likely will be at the August meeting. I already know that the next meeting is going to be the May 15th report. It'll be a lengthy meeting anyway. But the session will be for allowing public comment. I'm sorry, Morgan? No, oh, tomorrow, you have a question?
Oh. Am I good to speak?
Tumar was actually unmuted by accident, I believe, but
No,
Morgan
I'm
had her hand
sorry. My mic wasn't off and I was multitasking. My apologies.
No problem.
I'll finish the thought and we'll get a motion and then Morgan, whatever questions you have. The section will be for purposes of allowing public comment and like other similar opportunities will not include dialogue with or responses or answers from the trustees. Prior registration and time limits on public comments will be required, as is the case, I know, with most of the public bodies, including each of the state related universities. And time limits on public comments will be required with further details to be posted on the trust website. Therefore, I would like to ask for the following resolution. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Pennsylvania Opioid and Misuse Addiction and Abatement Trust authorizes the chair, working with the County Commissioners Association of Pennsylvania and Council, to schedule and organize a public listening session in 2025. Members of the public wishing to make a public comment shall pre-register via a form developed by CCAP and Council. Participation will be limited to 3 minutes for each individual wishing to make comments. Any further details regarding the public listening session shall be posted on the trust website in advance of the session. Could I have a motion to that effect, and then we can have a discussion? Okay. Representative Flick has made the motion. Is there a second?
Second, Kevin.
Okay, discussion. Morgan, your hand is up. I'm not trying to. Do you have a comment you'd like to make?
I do, Tom. Thank you. And I appreciate again that you let me have the floor on behalf of the senator. And I understand I'm not able to vote on his behalf, but I just wanted to comment that Senator Rothman is supportive of this resolution. And he's glad to see that it's the will of the trust to permit some greater public participation in this process and hopes that it will continue. So thank you.
You're certainly welcome. And the thanks to the senator who was one of the first people to raise this. I will add. Other questions? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, that's the end of the agenda. Is there any business anybody would like to bring to the attention of the entire trust? Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.